By First Commonwealth Bank, and it's AM 1160 WCCS and 101.1 FM. Bonni Dunlap is with us from the Housing Authority of Indiana County. The Housing Consortium and the Indiana Armstrong Builders Association is having a workshop for Indiana County landlords coming up on June the 8th. And I saw the list of speakers that you have coming, Bonni, and I thought this is really an interesting list of people that you have coming, and you're covering the whole gamut here with this, aren't you?
Yes, this is the second time we've done this. We did it last year. And many of the same speakers. It was very successful last year. We had 62 in attendance last year.
Wow.
We have a pool of probably over 700 landlords. There's a lot of landlords in the county.
Yeah.
From little ones that have, from landlords that have one or two places to, of course, the big landlords. But of course, the best way of learning something new is looking around to see what other people are doing. And that's what we did. We cheated, and we saw somebody else doing this. Another county did this. And we went to their workshop, and we said, this is really a good idea.
Yeah.
So we decided to replicate it and did it for the first time last year. Like you said, it's under the auspices of the Housing Consortium, which Lou Ann Zach from the Indiana County Office of Planning and Development is the chair, and the Indiana Armstrong Builders Association, and Dick Clausen, of course, is a staff person there. Mm-hmm. So that's the sponsoring organizations. And then the Housing Consortium formed a committee to put this together. So we've been, like I said, we did this last year, and you can see the speakers include, the first session is Guy Haberl, one of our Indiana County District Court judges, and he's going to be talking about the eviction process. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then we go into pest infestation, which is kind of critical when you're a landlord, because
sure,
there's things like bed bugs out there and other bugs and pests. And so we have Jeff Rice from Environmental Pest coming. And then a topic that a lot of landlords, I think, maybe overlook sometimes is the fair housing topic. Mm-hmm. And you have to be very careful about discrimination.
Yeah. And you might not think what you're doing is discriminatory.
That's correct, yeah.
But the law says it is.
Yeah, I've talked to landlords, and they've made statements to me, and I have to say to them, you're not allowed to do that. Uh-huh. And so Jamie Mulligan from Southwestern PA Legal Services is coming to talk about fair housing. She does an excellent job. Mm-hmm. Howard Ehrman from the Self-Help Determination Project will talk about renting to individuals with disabilities. And we have there's an interest in the topic of crime. And so we have Trooper Clifford Greenfield from the Pennsylvania State Police coming to talk about that. Our district attorney, Pat Doherty, is going to talk about illegal activity, what to do when you see something going on, how to handle it. And a lot of people are interested in the Housing Authority's program, the Section 8 Housing Voucher Program, in which we help pay rent for individuals of lower income. Yeah,
such a wide array of things that people who are considering becoming landlords would be interested in.
Absolutely.
But certainly those who do rent. And I think what we tend to think in around these circles is when you talk about renting places, you're talking about around the IUP campus. But
this is all through the county.
Yeah.
We have people coming from Rossiter and Armagh and Salzburg and all around, pockets all around.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me, you mentioned illegal activity and crime. From a landlord's perspective, I'm sure they would be interested to know, what are you liable for when your renters do something illegal? Mm-hmm. They might be surprised to learn.
Well, and even in our sites, in our public housing sites, when we see something that's going on, we have to stop and say, okay, well, how do we handle this? Mm-hmm. What do we do about it? And what's the procedures that we go through?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we have to deal with that.
So this is going to be held where and when?
This is going to be held on June 8th, and it'll start at 8 a.m., and it'll end at 3:30 p.m., and it's going to be held at the Hubs Ohio room on the IUP campus. Mm-hmm. But you must make a reservation. Okay. And there is a fee. There's a slight fee just to pay the cost of the supplies and the lunch, because we do include a lunch over that time period. And so there's a $15 fee, and that has to be made out to the Indiana Armstrong Builders Association and sent to them at Box 462 in Indiana. And then you register with me by either calling 724-463-4745, or you email me at bonnidunlap at HIChousing.com.
The event is June 8th. What's the registration deadline? When do you need to know?
The registration deadline is going to be May 31st.
May 31st. So last day of this month for a June 8th event.
Right.
You've got time, and boy, $15 including your lunch.
That's
with all of
cheap.
those speakers, you can't beat that.
That's correct.
Because you need to know this information. And it's really interesting to me that the Housing Consortium came up with this and covers such an amazing array of topics. The eviction process. Guy Hapril will be talking about that. It's not as easy as saying, I don't like the way that what you've done. You put holes in the wall, you're out.
Well, and you raise a good point, because there are people that rent that do not have leases. So one of the things he covers is leases. What should be in a lease, how that protects a landlord, how it protects a tenant. I was just telling someone that I talked to an individual the other day, and she said, I'm going to be moving out and I need to give notice. And I said, what's your lease say? She said, I don't have a lease. Yeah. So it's interesting to me that there are people out there that rent still that do not have a lease.
Yeah,
and that's not protecting them or the landlord.
Yeah, that's absolutely the wrong approach to it from the landlord's perspective.
Right.
Because he or she has rights just as much as they have responsibilities.
If you want to claim damage, you better have that written in your lease as to how that will be handled and what the charges are.
Yeah, and for non-payment of rent as well.
Correct.
Eviction. You need to have something written in a lease.
And Guy talked about that last year, and we'll talk about that this year also as part of his presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Housing Consortium of Indiana County putting this program together. And ladies and gentlemen, if you are a landlord or a prospective landlord, this is something you really need. Again, make the registration by contacting Bonni. It's Bonni Dunlap, no E after the I in Bonni, Bonni Dunlap, at HIChousing.com. And get lined up for something like this, because this is a real opportunity for people to really educate themselves.
And if you want to repeat my phone number, just so that if they didn't get the email, it's 724-463-4745. Leave a message, even if I don't answer, to just tell me simply that you're coming, and you can do the check to the Indiana Builders Association.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, it is Indiana in the Morning. We're with Bonni Dunlap from the Housing Authority of Indiana County. She's with us here this morning. See it? That little button down there that says cough. You could have pressed that one instead of, but it doesn't say sneeze. So just because it doesn't say sneeze doesn't mean you can't use it for that purpose.
But I was good. You didn't hear me.
You were beautiful. I mean, you did it great. The workshop itself and putting it together, give me a time frame. How long do you expect that it will last?
We are going to end at 3:30. After all those presentations, we'll be doing a closing, and we'll also ask for an evaluation so that we can be planning for what we need to do next year, because we plan on doing this every year.
So this is a full day thing, 8 a.m.
This is a full
to
day.
3:30.
It was shorter last year, and we had shorter time periods for the speakers, and we found that there were too many questions, and it just wasn't long enough. So we've lengthened the day.
Well, that's one of the things about this particular topic, is that every landlord is going to have a unique set of circumstances that they want to get answers to. And somebody might not think that their topic would involve anybody else, but others are going to sit there and say, oh, yeah, that's a good question.
Well, I think one of the things, one of the topics we put another half an hour on is the fair housing one, because some of the landlords were astounded at some of the things they were hearing that they're not permitted to do.
Yeah.
And they were asking questions about that, whether it was in regards to animals, whether it be service animals or support animals. Those were some of that was a topic of interest. And there were a lot of questions about that.
Yeah, and I would think that folks with ADA laws and things of that nature, they would really want to know what the law says they need to be able to provide too.
And Jamie goes through all those classes, those protected classes, and explains exactly what they are, and just does an excellent job of covering those subjects.
Bonni, thanks for coming in to tell us about it.
Oh, I'm glad to be here.
We appreciate it. It is Indiana in the Morning, presented by First Commonwealth Bank. It's AM 1160 WCCS and 101.1 FM.